Speaker of the Kettle, Speaker of the House, and Member for Travel Edmund. At the present day today, the House will start to deal with some other issues, such as written questions and then motions for a routine. Then if there is time, they might move on to motion 210, sponsored by the member of Calgary Northwest. And this motion deals with a review committee for the economic diversification strategy of the government. At 4:30, the House will deal with the bill with regard to children's rights as sponsored by the member for Edmonton Calder, Bill 206. This evening, when the House reconvenes at 8 o'clock, they will be dealing with the estimates of the Department of Transportation and Utilities. Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and to enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 33, the Landlord and Tenant Amendment Act 1991. This bill is designed to ensure the continued fair and honest relationship between landlord and tenants. The major amendments included in this bill include reorganizing the tenant's rights to privacy and adequate security of tenure. This bill will provide landlords with a more effective means of dealing with tenants who've breached their tenancy agreements in a substantial way, and will provide for the holding of security deposits in trust and limit rent increases to once every 6 months. I look forward to discussing these and other aspects of the bill with honorable members.
The Honourable Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs has moved first reading of Bill 33, Landlord and Tenant Amendment Act 1991. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 33, Landlord and Tenant Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Anderson, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, further to the introduction of Bill 33, I would table draft regulations for discussion only, outlining the proposed reasons for the termination of tenancy and concerning the proposed frequency of rental increases.
Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I take pleasure in tabling with the legislature the annual report of the Alberta Dairy Control Board for the year 1989-1990.
Introduction of special guests.
Deputy Premier. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today, on one of those rare occasions, coming as far as I do from my constituency, to have in the gallery 74 alert and bright students from the Crestwood School in Medicine Hat. They are accompanied by their teachers, Doug LaMarche, David George, Shelley Reisdorf, Bev Slater, and Wade Lawson, as well accompanied by a number of parents, Harold Schwant, Sherry Dixon, Debbie Stenger, and Lynn Fountain. I'm particularly pleased to have them with us here today in the Assembly to observe the proceedings of the House, and I would ask that they all stand to receive the warm welcome of the Assembly. Solicitor General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 30 members of the Wild Rose Elementary School who are seated in the public gallery with Mr. Tony Swear and Mrs. Juliette Rush. I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional welcome of this Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Provincial Treasurer. Mr. Speaker, since the Minister of Telecommunications is sick, and I'd be sick too after the Novotel fiasco, Mr. Speaker, maybe the Treasurer will know what's going on today, Mr. Speaker. So far, Novotel has cost Alberta taxpayers $160 million to buy it back. $204 million in 1990 losses, put them on the hook for another $500 million in loan guarantees, and cost 600 workers their jobs. That's performance, Mr. Speaker. That's performance from this government. Now we hear that the provincial treasurer admitted that Novotel has lost even more money in the first quarter of this year, Mr. Speaker. To the provincial treasurer, since Albertans own this company and are responsible for the debts, will the Treasurer tell them now how much Novotel has lost in the first quarter of 1991?
Right on.
Mr. Speaker, my comments were in a general context that we had corrected for the losses to the year end March 31st, 90 for the province, had taken into account, as described in the budget documents, the Novotel losses. Those are fully accounted for in the documentation presented to the Assembly on April 4th, 1991. And what I did go on to say was that I've been advised that we could expect further losses in the first quarter of this year, but they have not been determined specifically and will be announced in the normal course of operations.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious question. I'm not asking to the nearest penny, and surely the Treasurer must have some idea what we're looking at, because it has to do with his balanced budget and everything else. And my question simply to the Treasurer is this: what is Treasurer's explanation for not telling us here in the legislature, giving us a ballpark figure? Is it that he doesn't know? Is he incompetent? Or he just doesn't want to tell us?
Right.
None of the above, Mr. Speaker. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, what happens in these cases, and this has been the problem with respect to Novotel reporting. We have said previously that the management information system that provides the accounting information and the data that's used for evaluation of the transactions, the profitability of the entity, and to some extent measures its cost of operations, have been less than effective. And as a result, the auditors and the managers of the company have struggled with the year-end calculation. And you saw that, I think, from both the reported losses of the entity, the timing of the losses of the entity, and the actual accounting losses of the entity. Now, those have been fully reported in the accounting documents of the province of Alberta at March 31st, 1990. And the reason that they were fully reported is that the province had to make an outlay under the indemnity given to TELUS during the Privatization Act. And that indemnity was a commitment which we fulfilled and have completed. Now, further losses of the company, Mr. Speaker, will not in fact impact on our balance sheet at this point. Operating losses will be funded in a different fashion. And of course, it's still in the first quarter attempting to make the transition from the year-end accounting at the end of December of 1990, and the first quarter adjustments, Mr. Speaker, which in the crudest accounting terms are very difficult right now because of the lack of information, the difficulty with establishing what information is available, and taking into account the adjustments which were reflected on December 31st, 1990 in the entity itself.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll try to figure out what he said. He says they don't know what's going on, Mr. Speaker. That's at the bottom of it. And I would remind that to the treasurer, we have $500 million in loan guarantees, all the losses, 600 jobs just announced. The treasurer telling us with that baffle group we just went through that he really doesn't know what's going on, how much we've lost in the first quarter. Is that what he's saying to us?
Yeah. What I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is that the first quarter losses have, although there will be losses in the first quarter, those have not been completed. They'll be completed in term and provided to everyone who's interested.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition. Half hour from now.
Mr. Speaker, I can't believe this, but my second question I'd like to designate to the member from Calgary Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, the mood in Calgary today is grim, not just over the loss of 340 jobs at Novotel or the announcement today from SAIT of the abolition of another 90 positions, but with the large number of job losses being experienced throughout that city. Canada Packers, Petro-Canada, hospital ALCB workers, Mr. Speaker, the toll is a long and a depressing one. Since January the 1st, 4,500 workers in that city have lost or are about to lose their jobs. And I'd like to ask the provincial treasurer, when he knew that unemployment was sharply worsening, why did he refuse to provide a single budget initiative or measure to help create jobs?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me simply recount the facts that have taken place in this budget. To say that this budget does not stimulate the economy is in fact not altogether accurate, because within the budget itself is well over $11 billion to $12 billion of spending. Those are actual expenditures that this government will make in the marketplace in Alberta, which provide a significant number of jobs right here and those people who are employed by the government, provide major transfers to universities, colleges, and technical institutes, which generate a lot of jobs as well, and as well on a procurement basis acquire and buy from small businesses right across this province valuable resources which allow them to continue to operate. That's the multiplier effect of this budget. It's important in terms of the gross national production of this province, and is a very significant fact. Remember as well, Mr. Speaker, that there's also capital projects that are being developed by this province as well. Less than last year, we agree, but still major capital projects. Now, the reason we established that fiscal plan was that if you look out across the next 2 to 3 years in this province, there's going to be significant new investment in this province. Alpac, for example, is going to start its construction right away in this province. Alpac, a $1.4 billion investment, Mr. Speaker, in this province is going to take place. We can go on, Mr. Speaker, we can go on.
Thank you. Say something for 2 supplementaries, please. Let's go Calgary Mountain View.
Well, Mr. Speaker, whatever the provincial treasurer's rhetoric might be, the hard reality and the large numbers of the unemployed are crowding in to crowd out his fantasyland wishful type thinking. Now, the budget not only contained no measures for job creation, actually it went a step further, and a step worse, Mr. Speaker. It guts programs for retraining workers who do lose their jobs. Now, I'd like to ask the Career Development Minister, is he willing now to admit that he made a tragic error when he forgot about the recession, and will he go to his cabinet colleagues and insist they do something to ensure Calgarians and other Albertans are not left completely on their own to deal with unemployment and layoffs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the only person who should admit to error is the honourable member's remarks when he refers to the recession. And may I remind the honourable member when the provincial treasurer tabled this document that says, an accounting to Albertans, budget 1991, a strong competitive economy. And what does it say? It says Alberta is an expected increase of 12,000 jobs, while Canada overall will see a decrease of some 200,000. It goes on to talk about the 107,000 jobs being created in the province. Overall, Mr. Speaker, our department has committed some $110 million to training programs. With the broad diversification programs that are about to take place, I can see nothing but positive effects And I wish the honourable member would also follow up with what's happening with regards to the unemployment stats in the province.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is simply idle speculation, Mr. Speaker, by comparison to the reality of the growing number of pink slips being issued to Alberta workers. And for this minister to say that they're what recession tells me more about how this government is out of touch with the reality of what's happening in this province. So I'd like to ask the provincial treasurer, Mr. Speaker, why has this government chosen to abandon Albertans to deal with the severe economic crisis on their own without offering them any assistance or help?
Mr. Speaker, I've already told all Albertans, and Albertans know one thing, that this is a balanced budget with very high priorities in keeping this economy strong. I've talked already about the role of the government. My colleague has talked about the importance he places on job retraining plans, and those are continuing to be our commitment. Well, what must be remembered here, Mr. Speaker, what must be remembered is there is a significant difference between the view held by this government and the socialist NDP party across the way. They think they can spend, that they can spend their way out of the economy, Mr. Speaker. They don't know that the private sector is what drives a strong economy through their investments. And that's how jobs are generated. That's how the youth are protected, and that's how the economy is going to continue. Mr. Speaker, the deficit in Ontario, $10 billion by those socialists across the way, is simply deferred taxation. Simply deferred taxation. At some point, that's going to have to...
Order. I'm glad you're exchanging pleasantries, but maybe we can get on to other stuff. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The case of Novotel is hopefully the most massive demonstration that this government will ever arrange, showing their complete inability to pick winners. Trust us, guys, we believe you. You don't have to do it anymore. Just in case the members opposite have forgotten, they spent $21 million to bail out the TELUS prospectus, $175 million to buy it, $525 million loan guarantee, and a $200 million loss this year, totaling $925 million. That represents a total of this Treasurer's budget of 7.3% of the total budget for 1991. My question is to the Treasurer. Since this total cost is greater than the expenditures planned for the Departments of Agriculture, Career Development and Employment, Consumer and Corporate Affairs, Culture, Multiculturalism, Economic Development and Trade, Environment, Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, and Tourism together, what guarantees can the minister give us that our investment is safe?
Mr. Speaker, this is one of the most chronic distortions of the facts that I have seen in some time. Absolutely wrong, Mr. Speaker, absolutely wrong. I mean, I have reported, Mr. Speaker, that Novotel has in fact lost money. And the losses in Novotel are $131 million. Those have been accounted for in the year-end statement, March 31st, 90, of the province of Alberta, fully reported April the 1st and the 4th in this budget. Speaker, you must remember what happened here. Now, the member has gone on to list the long, outstanding list of loan guarantees. I think it's important that we explain what's happened here. First of all, Novotel was owned by Alberta Government Telephones and in partnerships for a while with another private sector entity. And over the period of that time, it was then bought back by AGT, Alberta Government Telephones, and the government put in place a series of guarantees which totaled some $300 or $400 million, which allowed it to service its clients, expand its marketplace, and compete effectively on a one-on-one basis with the competition. It's a normal kind of financing transaction. Speaker, those guarantees ended when the company was privatized. During the period, Mr. Speaker, when the company was brought back into the government's hands, we had to put these guarantees back in place. So the guarantees are not new. It's not additional. It's the old amount of money. It's always been there, Mr. Speaker. And to argue that it's different or new is, in fact, wrong. So, Speaker, the only losses which the province has experienced have, in fact, been the $131 million that I referred to. The company is now in the process of being restructured and rebuilt. We'll look at it internally to see what's going to happen to it. But to argue that that kind of investment is, or those kinds of dollars have been spent is just wrong. The total amount of the investment at this point, Mr. Speaker, is $131 million. And there are strong assets behind that company. We hope we can salvage it in a real way and sell it in the private sector, and that's our first objective, and that's the plan of action that we're now following. It's not at all being near the number of dollars a member.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Well, my supplementary to the Treasurer then is, can the Minister tell us how much of the $525 million loan guarantee that has been offered to this company, which is more than 3 times the value of the company when we bought it just 4 months ago, how much of that has been drawn down since he's the guy who's in charge of this?
I mean, it's so difficult to explain these transactions to someone who knows nothing about business, Mr. Speaker, that it's in fact almost wasting our time. What we have said, Mr. Speaker, is in terms of the sales operation of Novotel, the company does provide assistance in financing to other people who buy its services. And that's where the guarantees go, and those guarantees are only directed to the sales contracts against good hard assets, which is an accounts receivable, if you like, which must be paid back to the company. The rest of the company, Mr. Speaker, was in fact earmarked at around the $200 to $250 million level. We had a very serious buyer in place who was expected to purchase it during the privatization of TELUS, as you well know. And what we now have is a company which is worth in that area, which we're trying to determine right now, Mr. Speaker. But the losses, Mr. Speaker, have only been $131 million. That's the only losses we've had. And the other assets, Mr. Speaker, are now being evaluated and will in fact be put back into the marketplace. And the other guarantees, once the company is sold, will be returned to the government. They won't be our responsibility anymore. But to assist it at this period, the normal course of guarantees, which were in place before it was transferred to TELUS, are now back in place, and they're worth about $300 million.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, the Treasurer loves to dance a little sidestep, but Albertans are getting tired of having their toes stepped on. So how about a straight answer this time around? Since we have 7.3% of the total budget at risk potentially with this company, will the Minister or will the Treasurer commit simply to scrapping this current ad hoc system of funding whatever company comes along and draft a more feasible, logical, and affordable system of funding companies that need it?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we in fact do have a very clear program of guarantees. The Member of Economic Development, the Minister of Economic Development, has explained, for example, his export loan guarantees. Very effective way in which we assist small businesses and other businesses to trade into other markets. That's a program. The Minister has clearly set out the criteria for dealing with the provision of guarantees, including external assessments, use of consultants, taking of fees, taking of security. Those are all in place, Mr. Speaker, and are working very effectively. The other area of guarantees, which does cause some problem to us, is the area which I describe as the moral guarantees, Mr. Speaker, where there was no legal requirement for the government to step in and assist, but in fact we did step in and assist in any event. And that includes the credit unions, to stabilize for more than 500,000 Albertans their deposits in the credit union system. The principal group is another example, Mr. Speaker, where we had no obligation but did in fact step in. And still further, Mr. Speaker, an area where I think government guarantees are in fact important, student loans. Very clear, very clearly set out the criteria there, and we are taking a risk on those students' future. Unlike the opposition, who doesn't care about the future, they only care about looking backwards in the mirror, Mr. Speaker. That's how the guarantees operate. It's a very effective program, has diversified the economy, and the losses, Mr. Speaker, are about less than 5%, and that's not a bad performance in my view.
Calgary, Fish Creek, followed by Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker, an international tourism show called Rendezvous Canada will be staged in Calgary next week, at which buyers of tourism products and services from something like 28 nations around the world will be participating. Now, a recent announcement from the Minister of Tourism and his federal counterpart suggested that something like $350 million is expected to be generated in sales at the show in Calgary. Given, Mr. Speaker, the vital contribution that tourism makes to our economy here in Alberta, can the Minister indicate what proportion of those $350 million in sales that are expected will be generated for Alberta's tourism industry?
Good question. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to see the member from Fish Creek as the new chairman for ATAC taking an active part in tourism, and the city of Calgary is very fortunate to be able to host this important event for us in Alberta. This week alone, there should be $1 million spent immediately. And yes, the $350 million is an accurate figure from last year's reports, but Alberta companies should expect about $25 million, if not more. Try to improve on that. We are working with our industry for 4 product shows one post, or three of them in post, and one pre-convention tour for product knowledge throughout the province. And there's some 700 Canadian travel industry sellers. 54 of them are Alberta companies at the marketplace, and they'll be having appointments with some 270 buyers from international markets. There's over 2,100 appointments already made, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as impressive as those numbers are, I trust the minister isn't going to put all his travel promotion eggs in one marketplace basket. And I'm wondering, can he indicate how many other show initiatives the government is contemplating taking with our private sector partners?
No, very definitely, Mr. Speaker. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. Actually, for our investment into this show, it's very minute in comparison to the return. It's less than $50,000. And we will be participating in over 30 travel shows throughout the international marketplace. Compared to last year, we only participated in about 20, even though we do have reduced funding this year, and we were participating in balancing the budget. Those shows are printed, and any participant or any member can let his travel industry partners know. We'll send them a brochure which shows we're going to, where they're at. They include PATA in JATA, Chicago Trade Show, the U.S. Marketplace, the World Travel Marketplace in London, ITB in Berlin, and many, many more.
Bakerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in spite of attempts by the provincial government to push farmers into participating in the gross revenue insurance plan by cutting off important farm programs for fertilizer, fuel, and interest, and attempts by the federal government to pull producers into the GRIP corral by lowering premiums in year one, participation by farmers in GRIP is very low, with only 2 weeks to go until the deadline. The compulsory aspect of this program, Mr. Speaker, that forces farmers to participate for 4 full years if they sign up this year is, I submit, too harsh and too restrictive for a program that is not fully developed, not well understood, and certainly not well accepted by farmers. And I'd like to ask the minister if he would agree to loosen the grip on farmers by giving them the freedom to choose whether or not they participate in GRIP this year without penalty.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to understand that this is an interim year of a revenue insurance option program. And although it is true, as the member stated, that when a producer is asked to sign up this year, he makes a commitment to the program for 3 years, which in effect with this year is 4. However, it is also in the producer's contract that if there is a significant change to that program, that beyond the parameters of the program that he enters into, he is not bound to the program. I am sure that the honourable member is not encouraging us to put a program in place that has an opting out in 1 year clause that would absolutely guarantee the failure of a program to becoming actuarially sound. This is an insurance program. It was designed on advice from producers in consultation with the 10 provinces and the federal government to offer a stability to the revenue side of their operation. This is what the program was designed to do, and it is an insurance program, which means a commitment by the producers.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister has to recognize that less than 6,000 farmers have signed up for this program in spite of the attempts by both levels of government to push and pull them into the program. She's got to reconcile that, Mr. Speaker, and has to realize that if the program is good, then farmers that participate this year will want to participate next. And I'd like to ask her again, will she not at least consider the option of allowing producers to participate this year without compelling them to participate for 3 years hence if the program is not what they thought it was cracked up to be?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, I have explained that this is an interim year, an introductory year of the program. The commitment has been made by all levels of government, and that commitment has been followed through by a national committee being set up to assess the program and to work with farmers to enhancements to the program. We debated this issue fairly fully in the second reading of the crop insurance bill. The member has suggested that he would be bringing some amendments forward. I think we'll have opportunity to debate it again. But I reply, the criteria for entering the program is clear. About 60% of the producers in this province now are in crop insurance. 30% of the producers have signed up for the revenue insurance program. There is 2 weeks for farmers to assess the program, and if it meets their needs and suits their management of their operation, they will make the choice, not by being pushed or pulled in by this government, to the program. It is a voluntary program. It is an insurance program. It was designed with input from the producers, and they will make the choice as to whether they join it.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, higher student offices opened in Alberta, but due to the flawed fiscal policies of this government, students are not looking forward to great summer job prospects. This year's budget for the summer temporary employment program has been reduced by 50%.
Shame.
Resulting in grave consequences. The Minister of Career Development and Employment's office informed us that government department STEP programs have been cut by 78%, municipality grants have been cut by 60%, and the non-profit groups have endured a decrease of 44%. To the Minister of Career Development and Employment, given the important role that the STEP program plays in offering career-related jobs and experience for Alberta students, especially when the economic downturn limits summer job creation in the private sector, how does the minister justify cutting back on the future of our young people? They are hurting.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what we're going to have to do to drive home the point, but we're sure going to try. Because I announced in this assembly, and with others with during estimates, talked about the STEP and the overall funding, and yes, the honourable member is right, Mr. Speaker. There is $10 million being funded. But I also indicated at the time, Mr. Speaker, that because of the dollars differential between last year and this year was because we're not in a double-digit unemployment stats. There's lots of opportunities for those who are willing to apply themselves as well. I want to indicate thoroughly to the honourable member, I attended 10:30 the evening before down there with the students in line. I went back the following morning at 7 o'clock, served them coffee and donuts, and worked very hard with them. I also must say there's an awful lot of dedicated students who are working very hard to better themselves and their careers. Also, what it'll indicate with the facility that's they're offering the jobs, the commitment that those people offer as well. There's some 3,000 jobs being posted. There's lots of opportunity, and no, some of them will not get the meaningful jobs they're after. But I can assure the honourable member, if you look at the overall stats, we're not in the dire position that she is indicating.
My second question is to the Minister of Advanced Education. Since this government has hiked tuition fees, cut support to advanced education institutions, slashed the Student Finance Board budget, and now decreased its commitment to the summer employment programs, how can this minister justify his government's attempt to balance the books on the backs of our students when he's supposed to be their advocate?
Shameful.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is wrong on all 4 points that she attempted to make, Mr. Speaker. The programs put in place with regard to tuition still remains that Alberta is the lowest in terms of tuition fees in the nation next to Quebec. We think we have done what is fair to all students, and I'm confident, Mr. Speaker, that along with the programs announced by the Minister of CD&E, each of those students is going to have a fair opportunity for summer employment.
Wainwright, followed by Edmonton Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Assembly may be aware that the constituents of Wainwright have taken their responsibility for constitutional review very seriously. The community organized Confederation Week, a series of 5 nights where nearly 200 community people come out to listen to information, and then broke into small groups to discuss these constitutional matters and submitted their findings to the Spicer Commission. My question is to the Deputy Premier as Chairman of the Select Special Committee on Constitutional Reform. Inasmuch as the Select Committee would likely learn a lot of useful first-hand constitutional information from the people of Wainwright, would he be prepared to commit to a public meeting of his committee in Wainwright?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for Wainwright for underlining in the Assembly the important contribution being made by the citizens of the community of Wainwright. The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud doesn't seem to approve, but that's another issue. Let him chatter away along with the member for Westlock Sturgeon. They have nothing better to do, I guess. The people of Wainwright, though, think it is a serious matter, this question of national unity, and I want to congratulate them for the efforts that they've undertaken. I appreciate the representation made by the honourable member, but I do point out that we have already announced, and it's been published, that we will be visiting 10 communities in Alberta in the period between May the 24th and June the 1st, and those dates have been set. The public notice has now been made official as to the times and the places where we will be meeting. However, I will point out that immediately following those series of public meetings, the committee has determined that they will meet to assess whether or not it will be desirable or necessary to attend in other parts of the province for public hearings, and at that time we will certainly consider the honourable member's representations and those of his constituents.
Very reasonable.
Thank you. Included in their constitutional review was an exchange visit to Maryville, Quebec, which has recently been highlighted on the provincial and national news. Given their obvious success, would the minister be prepared to contact his counterparts in Ottawa and Quebec that more of this type of information exchange be arranged?
Well, Mr. Speaker, over the years there have been a number of, for quite a long time in Alberta, the departments of education, advanced education have sponsored student exchanges and exchanges back and forth between Alberta and Quebec. Those have proved to be very successful. That type of relationship, I think, is extremely important, and of course getting to know each other as Canadians better can only serve to strengthen the unity of Canada. And that applies whether or not we're talking to people from Quebec, people of Newfoundland, or British Columbia. The fact of the matter is we don't know enough about our country. As Canadians, I wish we knew more, and I thank the honourable member for his representations, and once again underline my gratitude to the people of Wainwright for their initiative and their true dedication to the future of Canada, and I thank them again for that.
Good, Edmonton Jasper, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Swan Hills Special Waste Facility has already eaten up, or you might say incinerated, more than 90 million taxpayers' dollars provincially, 115 to the end of this fiscal year. And it grows because the private sector operators guaranteed a return of prime plus 3% on their investment. On the eve of the tripling of the capacity proposed of the plant, I'd like to ask the Minister of Economic Development why the government, with their record on loan guarantees, has introduced legislation in the form of Bill 32, which allows the Special Waste Management Corporation, with the approval of a single minister, to issue guarantees to private sector partners, which are in turn covered by the taxpayers.
Mr. Speaker, it's regretful that the Minister of Environment is not in the Legislative Assembly today. He had pressing business in other areas of the province. I will take the question as notice, and I will give the undertaking that the Minister of Environment will get back to the honourable member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, with respect, the proposition used to be that guarantees could only be issued by Cabinet through the provincial treasurer. Now the Minister of the Environment gets to issue guarantees in the private sector without reference to anybody else at all. Maybe I'll ask the provincial treasurer why this new authority to give private sector partners of the Special Waste Management Corporation, in view of this expansion, easy access to guaranteed loans through the Minister of the Environment.
Yeah. Speaker, the provision of guarantees is very carefully limited and in fact monitored very carefully, but I think the member is now bringing into question period a debate which more properly should rest in second reading of that legislation. And clearly, Beauchene rules of anticipation spell that out, Mr. Speaker.
Committee of the Whole. When it gets to Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, despite the fiction that the provincial treasurer and the career development and employment ministers are trying to peddle with respect to the state of Alberta's economy, the fact of the matter is that jobs are being lost in Alberta at an accelerating rate. Today is another sad example of that, Mr. Speaker. 90 more people at SAIT lost their jobs. And I have little doubt that that's because of the bungling of the appointed board that this government and that minister are responsible for. My question to the minister is this. Now that the SAIT board bungled its way through millions of dollars in its Batam Island barge project that went absolutely nowhere, is the minister now prepared to fire every one of the appointed boards at universities, colleges, and technical institutes throughout the province and allow them to be elected by stakeholder organizations so that they can be accountable?
Mr. Speaker, there's no question that all publicly funded institutions with self-governing boards must operate within the budgets allocated to them. It's no secret, Mr. Speaker, that the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology has gone through some difficulties the last 3 or 4 years. I'm confident that with the appointment of a new chairman, new president, new comptroller, new financial officer, that many of these financial matters have been resolved and they're on the road to, I think, a new era in terms of the Technical Institute. So I don't agree with the honourable member who says that these volunteers within a community who choose to serve as governors of an institution should be replaced in any manner.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that those so-called volunteers get appointed by that cabinet, and they usually carry orange and blue cards, Mr. Speaker. That's right.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, right now, it isn't just 90 jobs is bad enough. 90 more jobs lost in Calgary is bad enough. But the fact of the matter is the students at SAIT are going to suffer cut programs again, Mr. Speaker. These guys are single-handedly destroying everything they touch. My question to the minister is this. Years of underfunding, that is, funding that didn't keep pace with the rate of inflation, has hurt these institutions. Is the minister willing to go back to the provincial treasurer to ask for compensatory funding to at least meet the rate of inflation for all these institutions?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows and is well aware, based on the estimates, that the contribution by the taxpayers of Alberta to the post-secondary system is the highest in Canada per capita. I understand, Mr. Speaker, that SAIT has been through some difficulties. We're attempting to resolve it. I appointed a special advisor. We sought, rather than be biased, outside expert consultants. They've come forward with recommendations which are now underway to have a new financial plan of the institution and to be accountable. I'm confident with the new board, and quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, I'm somewhat offended by the honourable member's point that the present board is responsible for all the difficulties that SAIT's been through. Mr. Speaker, I don't accept the representation by the member for Highlands. I'm confident that SAIT is on the road to recovery, and sure, there are difficult times. Sure, there'll be reduction in programs. But in the final analysis, Mr. Speaker, those board-governed institutions are responsible for operating within their fiscal plan, and I'm confident SAIT's going to do it.
Westlock Sturgeon. Order, Westlock.
Thank you very much. The question is to the Minister of Agriculture is with respect to the announcement this last week that they're putting an end to a 35-year-old program of government-paid veterinarian inspections at the sale and auction marts of cattle and pigs in this province. Mr. Speaker, these veterinarian inspections have proved their worth in the last 35 years in stopping the spread of disease, also adds extra income to veterinarians in our small towns, help keep veterinarians out in those areas. Also, people tend to pay a little more for livestock if they feel fairly secure they've been inspected. So my question to the minister is, why did the minister strike this program down when it's worked so well for so long? What possible reason does he have?
Mr. Speaker, I would have to agree with the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon. The program worked well over the years, was badly needed in the early years, and we looked at it very, very carefully before we decided to withdraw from it. I think when we looked, we found an industry that had matured in a very significant way, and felt that we no longer needed the government involvement in the auction market. This does not necessarily mean that there will not be veterinary inspection going on in our auction marts. Many of the auction market operators are continuing to provide the inspection service because they feel it is important and their clients are desirous of it. But they're doing it in their own way with their own contracts with local veterinarians. I might also add to that the brucellosis inspection and testing that goes on in our auction markets is still in place from Ponoka north. It was deleted south of Ponoka 2 years ago.
Mr. Speaker, asking the auction marts to supply the veterinarians is like asking Colonel Saunders about the health of his chickens. Surely the minister must understand that an independent government-paid inspector, as it is in case of restaurants and some other areas, is quite necessary for the flow of commerce. Would he at least agree to meet the Cattlemen's Association, the swine breeders and others, and look, rethink this whole process? Obviously, this is something done without any thinking.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a little disappointed that the honourable member would try to compare this to inspection in restaurants. We're not talking in auction marks of dealing with food. Our meat inspection system, which is ongoing, is being enhanced. We're putting more money into the meat inspection, which goes on in every abattoir. So let's not try to send a signal that we're dealing with a people health risk here. Keep also in mind, in an auction market, there are three players. There is the person that owns the livestock that wants to get the best return for them, and in most cases is a mature operator and takes proper care of their livestock. There is the buyer who wants to get the best value for his dollar and is usually a mature and qualified person at assessing the conditions of animals. And there is the auction market who wishes to maintain a reputation so that the buyer and seller will use their service. So we don't have a case of where anyone is going to benefit by trying to take sick animals through an auction market system.
O'Valley. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs in charge of housing. Mr. Speaker, it's my understanding that instead of building any new low-cost housing in Alberta, we are now going to be subsidizing the rent for low-income people in the private industry housing. Could the minister tell us what the formula is for subsidizing the rent for low-income families?
Mr. Speaker, I think that's a very timely question in terms of the rental vacancies across the province. The rent supplement program was a program initiated by the federal government a number of years ago in cooperation with the provinces of Canada. The federal government contributes 75% of the net, and the net is the difference between 25% of a person's income and the market rent. And this allows for a number of persons to be able to live in affordable accommodation, rental accommodation, across not only in Alberta but other provinces as well. This program is of great assistance to those that are disabled, those that are on fixed incomes, and those that are unable to meet some of the employment opportunities that are in our province.
Mr. Speaker, mentioning those that are on fixed incomes, does this apply to senior citizens that are on fixed incomes?
Mr. Speaker, most definitely it does. Those seniors that wish to live in private rental accommodation may live in units that are rent supplemented. Some of the units that are put in place by the federal government under the cooperative housing program requires the province to be involved in the rent supplement program. Some 15% and in some cases 50% of the units are rent supplemented. A number of senior citizens do find their rental accommodation or housing accommodation in those facilities.
Tony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions today are to the provincial treasurer. Mr. Speaker, Alberta has fallen to be 5th in the country in per capita spending on basic education. The province contributes on average considerably less than 60% towards the total cost of basic education, and the rest has to be made up by the local taxpayers. Yesterday in Edmonton, it was announced that the property tax burden on local taxpayers would increase by 8.4%, following on an increase in Calgary of 7.2%. Board chairs claim the increases are directly attributable to the fact that the province only funds less than 60% of the cost. Given that the Treasurer's attempt to balance the budget on the backs of property owners is misguided, will the Treasurer agree to reassess his priorities and redirect funds into basic education?
Mr. Speaker, I'm full of information about the Ontario budget today. I recall the NDP Socialist government in Ontario committing to move the funding to 60%. Provincial support to 60% in Ontario, Mr. Speaker. That was their commitment. How did they do? You saw a $10 billion expenditure deficit, Mr. Speaker, in that province. And what happened to the funding level of education? It was at 40%, Mr. Speaker. It was at 40%. Do you know what it is now in the budget, Mr. Speaker? Albertans would love to know this, Mr. Speaker. It's gone down in Ontario. Down, Mr. Speaker. And here we have a member railing about 60% in Alberta. The facts answer the question. Don't ever let those socialists get a hold of spending in this government of Alberta, Mr. Speaker, because funding for education would go down, down, down.
Mr. Speaker, as usual, the Treasurer is totally out to lunch and confused. He may be talking about Ontario, but we are discussing Alberta and the problems in Alberta. Mr. Speaker, the costs of education are increasing in everything from special ed to student transportation, yet this government is looking at taking away even more of the residential assessment from boards like Edmonton and Calgary through their schemes like corporate pooling, more commonly known as the Education Trust Fund. Will the Treasurer explain why this government's fiscal policy is to download onto the backs of local resident taxpayers and consumers?
Mr. Speaker, I can almost hear the Minister of Education's wide-ranging discussion on the future of education in this province. And to those youth in the galleries who are listening here today, they know full well that the best place to go to school anywhere in Canada is right here in Alberta. From kindergarten right through to university. There is the finest investment of taxpayers' dollars in schools. The Minister of Education has already committed over $700 million to new school construction in the next 4.5-year period, Mr. Speaker, on top of more than $1 billion over the past 5 years, Mr. Speaker, to keep the quality of education in this province absolutely without comparison anywhere else in North America. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Moreover, it's working because Albertans are proud of the investment in education and in the success rate of their students. And no other proof, Mr. Speaker, is clearer than that. Now, what I can say in the economics is this. Despite the protestations of the opposition across the way, the NDP commitment to education is as shallow as their words. They hide behind rhetoric, and when it comes to making it work, don't count on them, folks. They ain't there. It just ain't there, Mr. Speaker. In Alberta, we have given to the boards of education the responsibility
Thank you. Sometimes when I used to live in Medicine Hat, and sometimes when I visit the Cypress Hills, I wonder where all that warm air flows from, which is such. Orders of the day, might we have consent to revert to the introduction?